This is a quick introduction to the D20 Editor, which is the editor for creating characters for D20 plugin. Obviously, you could create these by hand, but I created a quick editor, nothing fancy, that will get you going much faster. So when we fire up the D20 Editor, we can see we got a whole bunch of default stuff here. There's a couple of values that are created automatically, and they'll be adjusted as I fill in stuff. And otherwise, we can fill this in ourselves. So basically what we have here is the section of kind of what our character has, and down here is the section where we make entries. So first thing we want to do is we want to give our character a name. And we want to select the level. Now you can see as soon as I typed in here level, it automatically created a entry here for level, and also it created automatically created the proficiency bonus, which is shown here and here. The proficiency bonus is calculated automatically, so when I go to 5th level, it will automatically figure out what that should be. And it does go beyond level 20 using the 4-level progression. So if you want to go higher than level 20, be my guest. So next, what we want to do is we want to fill in our ability scores. That will generate the modifier automatically. So let's just shoot some random numbers here. Okay, so we can see it generated the modifiers here automatically. And for here, the checkboxes are for saves. So if I'm proficient in, let's say, dexterity and intelligence, we get that filled in. Okay, so next we've got this section of features. And basically all of these features are configurable. If you were doing this by hand, you could configure any one of these features. They're not specific stuff in the D20 plugin that, these features don't have specific code in the D20. They're all just done by configuration. So you could absolutely create any of these just by using the rest of this editor or by manually. But these toggles basically allow you to quickly add in the corresponding configuration without you having to worry about it. By default, all of the features that are not class specific are checked, and the stuff that is class specific is not checked. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, Bless, Guidance, and Shield Spell are definitely class specific. Yes, they are, but anybody can cast Bless on you. So that's why Bless by default is checked, because another character in the party might be casting Bless on you, in which case it's not your class feature, but somebody else can give you that ability. Whereas something like Evasion is not checked, because you can only use Evasion if your character has Evasion. So I can quickly go through these. Reaction just means that in the UI, you'll have a toggle there for reaction. So you can basically stop the processing and do something before the processing finishes, i.e. take reactions. Bless just adds a toggle for the Bless spell, which adds 1d4 to attacks and saves. So again, you could configure that, but this will just put a nice little toggle there for you. Guidance is the same thing, but for skills. Shield Spell adds 5 to your AC. So again, these will just make a nice little toggle during the session for you to use, instead of you having to type in that you now have a D4 bonus. Then we've got the generic bonuses. So basically, if you have your AC bonus checked in the session, when you open up your little UI, there will be a generic AC bonus that you can add something to. Same thing for attack. same thing for damage, same thing for heal, same thing for save, same thing for skills, and same thing for spell DC. So these basically mimic what was in the ruleset 5e, where you kind of had a text box for generic additions to all these various things. So this kind of mimics that functionality. If you uncheck it, it just doesn't create it there. So evasion. Oh, sorry. And then we've got grapple. That will just add in a skill called grapple, which is opposed by athletics and acrobatics. It's a very common check that's rolled, so this will just automatically add it for you, so you don't have to add it in through the custom skills. Evasion basically provides two text boxes where you can tell it that you either have evaded to 0 or evaded to half. And half proficiency adds the half proficiency bonus to all skills you're not proficient in. Once we've got those selected, we can go on to the skills. So very simple. We've got, are you proficient in the skill? Are you an expert in the skill? If neither one of them are toggled, you're not proficient. So we can make some selections here. Let's say we're a thief, so we're going to go stealth and in investigation, and then we'll go with, I don't know, athletics, sleight of hand, perception, and deception. Let's go with that. Okay, so again, any skills here, those are the core skills, will automatically be added to your character sheet. There is an option to add additional stuff, which we'll get to in a moment. Okay, so that's the kind of the quick core stuff. And now you can add various entries to fill out the character sheet. And those basically come in 6 flavors. We've got values, we've got custom skills, we've got effects, damages, actions, and healing. Okay, so let's quickly go through those. Values is basically a way that you can set up a constant or a variable that then the rest of your entries can use. So, I might want to set up a value for number of wild shapes that I have to just track my wild shapes. So I could do that. I could make it some kind of a bonus. I got a magical item and I want to keep that kind of separated out. So I can make an entry here for magical item and then add it to the various attacks that I have. And with values, it can be a constant. So it's a, always a +1. Or you can make it so that it will show up in the UI at runtime so that you can actually change that value and then it becomes a variable. If you're familiar with the ruleset 5e plugin, the ruleset 5e plugin had 3 variables, had variable 1, variable 2, variable 3, which the user could use for whatever, and they filled a similar purpose. So here we've expanded on that. You can have much more than 3, and you can call them with reasonable names instead of var1, var2, var3. So that's values. You can see that it has created some values here by default. These are sort of special values that the plugin uses. So for example, we've got our immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities. So if your character has any of those, you can fill those in. And as noted earlier, it automatically created a level and a proficiency bonus because a lot of formulas use that. And then there's also the battle cry and battle cry and failure cry, which always starts with choice, and then it has a bunch of different options separated by pipes here so that you can actually use commas in the text. And those are the different messages that are randomly generated from that list when you succeed in an attack or fail in an attack. So those are kind of the reserved values. So that covers values. Then we've got custom skills. the category is called custom skills, but really it's any kind of a check. So it could be additional skills if you want to actually add some custom skills. It could be tool proficiency checks. It could be anything else. So if we want to add any one of these things, I didn't talk about that with values, but when we want to add any of these things, all we have to do is go down here in the edit entry. In this case, custom skills are a skill. So once I click skill, we can see that it grayed out non-applicable fields here, and I can make my entry. So let's say I want to do thieves tools, the roll 1d20 plus dex. So here I'm using a variable. There are, beyond these variables here, there are variables automatically made for ability scores, skills. So I'm just using that. And I don't need to add here anything like bless. Sorry, this is a skill check, so that would be guidance. I don't need to add those because I've already selected it here. It's going to do that for me. So I'm writing the formula like this, but once I export the character, you will see that guidance will be automatically added to this. Not only that, but we've got the skill bonus option also selected, so it will actually add guidance and skill bonus over here to the actual formula. Now, with custom skills, there is an option to make it opposed. So if it is something like stealth opposed by perception, you can write the opposed skill down. Thieves tools normally isn't opposed, it goes against DC, so I'm going to leave that blank. Now here, the menu entry is basically the location where I want this to show up in the radial menu when I click on my character. If I leave this blank, it will put it into a default location. If I specify something else here, that's where it will put it. When you're specifying the menu location, you always need to start with a slash, and then you can put whatever level of hierarchy you want, separated by slashes. So I might go tools, and then I need the name. So I can go with something like this, and that will put it under tools. Likely, if I kept this empty, it's going to put it under skills. So that's up to you. If you leave it blank, it will default. And that's all I need for the skill. So I can just hit add modify, and we can see that it has appeared here in our custom skills. If we click on any of these entries, we can see that this will automatically update to show that entry, and we could actually edit that entry. If we make any changes, we can hit then the add modify. So here I'm going to make her immune to, or make him immune to cold. I hit modify, and it updates that entry. So same thing, if I go back to what we entered here, we can go in and edit any of this. So that is custom skills. Oh yes, for the opposed, you can have it opposed by more than one skill, and if you do, the plugin automatically chooses whichever is better. So for example, grapple is opposed by athletics or acrobatics, but you can do that for your own skills too. Okay, then we've got effects and damages. I'm going to skip those for a second and go straight to actions. So if I go to actions, I can add an action. And basically actions are normally spells or attacks. Actions are an opposed check that has damage and or effects associated with it. So it could be a melee weapon, could be a ranged weapon attack, or it could be a spell. So clicking on this, once again, I get everything that's appropriate or potentially appropriate showing up here. So I can make this a longsword attack. What's the formula? Well, 1d20 plus, this is not a finesse weapon, so strength. And in this particular case, my character is going to be proficient with it, so I'm going to add proficiency bonus. I should have added proficiency bonus for Thieves' Tools, unless I'm not proficient, of course. Now, a longsword, what is it opposed by? Again, because it's an action, it has to be opposed by something. Longsword is going to be opposed by AC. And now here we've got the damages and effects. This is where we indicate the name of the entry that defines damage or the effect. You can have multiple, separating them by commas. So this is just a longsword, so I'm going to go I'm going to go with longsword damage. There's no effect with this, so I'm just going to leave that blank. Again, menu here, if I wanted to put it in a specific location, I could, or just accept the default. And I can add that. Okay, so now I've made a action, but that action is saying that the damage is longsword damage. I need to define that because we don't have that defined. So I can go to a damage, and now I'm going to say longsword damage does 1d8 plus strength slashing. Okay, and add that. So now we got that up there and the longsword. So now that's our longsword attack. The longsword does longsword damage, and we've defined longsword damage. Effects are done the same way. I could even add here. Let's say that it's a longsword with poison. So we're just going to go with add modify. So now we've created a. We need to now create the poison effect. So I can do a effect. And basically effects, just the formula is what text appears. They don't actually do anything. They just display something. So I might do something like causes poison condition, and I can add that. So now when we attack with the longsword, that's going to be the attack. It's going to go against AC, and on a success, it's going to do the longsword damage and poison. If we had something like, well, can't be sneak because it's a longsword, but let's say we had hex, then we can just go and add hex to the list. And then now we need to define hex as a damage. So we can go to damage, hex, 1d6. And there we go. So that's basically all of these entries here. I'm not sure if I mentioned on value, the display name here is if you want that value to show up at runtime so that you can edit it, you put a display value here. That's the name that it will show up on the UI, and that's also the flag for telling it to make it show up in the UI. If the display name is blank, which it normally is for everything else but values, it won't show up in that list. And that's pretty well it. Now we can just hit our export. And it tells us that it created the character. Again, Right now, it just creates the file in the same location as the editor. No fancy open and save dialogues as of yet. That might be added later. But that has now saved that character. So now the the export is basically both the same file is used by the plugin and for reading the character back in. So if I closed this, start it up again, then now if I type Mark and do an import, we can see everything has come back. Our stats, our saves, whatever features we had turned on, our skills. Oh, and we found a bug. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to fix that. Our thieves tools, for some reason, got picked up as an action and not a custom skill. I'll have to fix that. But anyways, there is the intro to the editor. I know these videos don't have great production quality, but they do have a lot of useful information. So please, appease the YouTube algorithm goddess by casting the subscribe spell and then blasting your Eldritch Blast at the like button. It'll really help me out.